Good evening, everyone. This is System Chalk with the 59th episode of Cultist Simulator, playing the Dancer DLC as Margaret. So I just want to double check. We got past the curse, so I don't think there's anything else for us to do on the expedition. And we've gotten rid of the restlessness. So the only thing we seem to really need to be worrying about is vitality. Now, if I was a big baby, I could probably just study health, but I feel like we should probably have other opportunities here. So, I think let's read The Dream of the Conspiracy, The Lower Skies, Siftings of the Disgraced Oracle, Daemon Azanatan. The big question for me right now is, do I want to do anything with the dream slot? We do have the Watchman's Glass, so I do have the option of going to the Peacock's Door, but if I recall correctly, I'm going to want to go to the Worm Museum, and we're going to have a Season of Despair coming up, so that's just basically... there's a very good chance that I'm going to be creating the problem that I was trying to avoid by doing that recruitment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to head to... Actually, I guess it should be the White Door that I want to go through. And that's going to provoke two things. One, I'm going to be able to use my health, so that can potentially provoke the Course of the Heart. The other thing that's going to do is I'll go to the Orchard of Lights. And that can also potentially give me a vitality. Now I can approach the White Door through the bounds. Now I can press my fingers to it, feel its chill, watch it swing open. As it opens, my mouth closes, tightens, heals over like a lost deformity. Around and about me is the cobalt light of the Mansis. Okay. I always wondered, for these expeditions, I used to have a habit where I would put a bunch of funds inside here, and it was just a convenient little way for me to use it as a bank. I kind of stopped doing that because it didn't really seem to get me all that much. The one thing that is kind of helpful is if you're facing things like the Long, every once in a while the Long will just inconvenience you more than really come after you, and you'll wallet will get stolen and stuff like that. But I don't know, in the end it was sometimes okay for trying to provoke something like starvation, so that would be relevant for the priest. But the thing is that it all of that stuff was coming long after I stopped doing it. So it's one of these cases where it's almost like it's a solution looking for a problem. I just don't really see the need to store up that much money. But I mean, in theory, if you ever wanted a bank in Cultist Simulator, that is a bank that you can store money in. I'm still convinced that Glover & Glover is a bank, even though the game never says so. And again, that's just based on my own experience. I'm sure everybody's got a job that they didn't like doing that that Glover & Glover is for them. But yeah, I suppose if you ever wanted to store money, that's the explorations or the vaults have always been the way that I've handled that. Now, Count Jannings has cooled down, so we'll have a chat with them. The good Count's fraternity, and should follow my own advice and turn in first, what the doctor requested. Then we talk to Count Jannings, and actually Madame Bichet's also freed up as well. What remains? We roll the stone aside, and light floods the tomb. Here is the king, dried to papery leather and crumbling bone. He does not move. This one was not immortal. Okay, so we've got a bronze Spintrea. We'll use that to repair. I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. As we've talked about a couple of times, I don't really need the erudition anymore because, well, normally I don't. There will be some times where it's helpful. But the bookshop has definitely helped me out. Now, once I start moving up the Vagabond's map, erudition becomes a little bit more helpful again. In fact, arguably, I think we're even at the point here where I want to be moving unresolved ambiguities up. So even here, I think erudition is more helpful. Basically, we've got the HQ with the library, so we don't have rarefied mind. We've got erudition or an HQ with a library. and glimmerings. So glimmerings are the one thing that we always know that we need. And then when it comes to erudition or fascination, we can cancel one of those with the bookshop. But of course, we also have the option where I suppose the way I could point this out is that for the Peacock Door, you have an event where, so like if you go through the Stag Door, usually the fascination is something that's going to be a result of you taking one of the unknown options. In the case of the Peacock Door, you can opt into fascination if you want. It's kind of hard to say that you want to, blow up a Spintrea, or blow up a mirror and then have to repair it with the Spintrea. It's kind of hard to say that you'd want to do that for a fascination. It would seem like there are probably better ways that you could accomplish that, but it's one of these ones where if you, for whatever reason, you decide that's something that you really need, or it's something that you want to get access to, that option is there. Whereas in the case of, in the case of the others, it's a little bit like trying to get a favor from authority. Like sometimes, yes, you can get them. The more you do something, the more likely it's going to, it's going to turn out that way. But, you kind of want to, I don't know, you don't want to bank on it. So there's a few options that we have, but yeah, in general, I pretty much always am grateful for glimmerings. And if it happens that there's a, something like a if there's an erudition that comes up, I'll take note of it, but generally I won't start something unless I have a glimmering. Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. Tonight they'll notice that. Did I not talk with Count Jennings? Silly me. The Good Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking particular research. Sorry, if you can just give me a quick second here. Alright. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. Okay, normally this is the time I would be doing a commission. I think we have enough time. I'll let the timer run by, but there we go. So he'd like a hard commission. Convenient, because I am looking to try and provoke... I'm trying to provoke the... It's not hard. I am trying to provoke Course of the Heart, so this may be useful for a commission. And then Madame Bichet we also want to get a commission from. She's seeking pieces for the notorious Carisham Review. So turning in the commission isn't as important to me. I will repair the mirror next. This illness has damaged my health. I'll need to rest before I'm fully recovered. Cure your affliction with funds or vitality. And we've got a moth commission. So that's within my, that's not going to be a hard one for me to do, but I do have other priorities right now. So let's get Tristan to repair our mirror. We can begin to repair this mirror. We can begin to repair this, but it will take at least a bronze Spintrea to purchase the necessary materials. And, well, I always wanted a Forgotten Chronicle. Last night I walked in the Orchard of Lights. I plucked the fruit, which is always ripe, and consumed it in 2 bites. The taste is not to be forgotten. As I licked the glowing juices from my fingers, I saw a message carved in the bark of the tree. When I woke, I recorded that message, all I could remember in my diary. So, it's a chance. It's not, we're never really guaranteed these things. But in this case, I am going to go back to the Peacock Door. So, in my dreams, I know the path through the glass garden to the Peacock's Door, the most admirable of doors, the door which shines like a mirror. Perhaps with the right resources, I can pass it. The Peacock's Door reflects in the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the Peacock's Door. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. Alright, we've got our translation done. The disgraced oracle Damon Azenaton sifts through the tall tales of Penelope of Gordian, the work of the court poet Cal, and the forbidden fragments of the work of adept Aratres, identifying common themes. So definitely these are... I'm trying to remember if all of these names have appeared before. There's definitely one that I recognize immediately, but it's maybe one I'll take a quick look at for the remaining books to see if any of these pop up again. Damon insists that the Hours, far more than mortals, are subject to their passions, to hatred, and even to love. The seasons of famine and plenty, the turn of the earth, the transformations of the furnace, all these are only the results of the enactment of the lesser passions of the Hours. Alright. The Shadowless Kings were buried only with their most personal treasures. They expected no luxury in the afterlife. Here is a tiny cache of the things that this king valued. So another old unhappy far-off things. We may be able to dance that away, but I'll keep that in mind. We've got a Glassfinger Toxin. What is within, without. What is without, within. A poison sacred to the votaries of the Menascate. I've always really liked this description, so I think this is the first poison we've gotten, but aspect lethal poison. Under no circumstances should you put this in anyone you want to keep. We don't have a rival, but there is... there are situations where if you... generally I'm pretty tame in my Cultist Simulator playthroughs, so I don't really use poison, and I don't really kill hunters that much. One of the reasons for that is just, to me, sometimes killing the hunter can be be more trouble than it's worth. You usually wind up with someone stronger coming after you. Not that, hunters are the most difficult to deal with, but still, it's just one of these cases where, why make life more difficult than it needs to be? Although you do also deny yourself the opportunity to gain some more powerful followers. But, excuse me. One of the things I really like is that in the game you can basically bring a poison, you offer the detective tea and poison them, and what a great what a dastardly villain am I, and so on and so forth. So it's a neat little thing that you learn. I'm sure most of you have tried that. If you haven't and you're having trouble with hunters, well, now you have another tool in your toolkit. But one thing that I did find really amusing is that when you have a rival, you can try the same thing. And the description is like it still provokes like an out loud laugh from me whenever I read it. Essentially, you sit down with your rival and you offer them tea, and they basically just look down at it. They look at you and get up without saying a word. And I just crack up at that description. I think that is just such a wonderful little moment in the game. I'm sure maybe I should just try to poison more people so I can get it. But yeah, it's a fun. It's definitely a fun encounter. From time to time, the mother of ants has also been called the daughter of venoms. The substance opens the body in uncountable places. Okay, so this is one of these cases again where I'm a little lost in terms of what I want to do with the Percussagant and the Callagine. It may even make sense for me to try and resummon them. This would be particularly desirable because the Percussagant leaves a heart influence, which will eventually become the course of the heart behind, and we have 171 seconds left. So I still need to go back to the Gaiety, but I may want to try resummoning the Percussagant. Now, as far as the Callagine is concerned, that's probably just going to tick down. So, I don't know, I'll have to think about it a little bit, but either way, we need to start using the Vagabond's map. The Vagabond is the one hour who can never enter the Mansis, but she goes everywhere else. And, if you believe her boasts, she's the one who knows all the histories. Sometimes she lets someone record her travels. So I'll do at least 3. Locate tombs and sorrows in the lone and level sands. The river, wrote the sage Mech in the Book of the Centipede, runs through the sands out of myth and into legend. This is the place the centipede was born, they say. The sands of which Mech wrote the sands of which Mech wrote hide perilous curiosities. I'm assuming that the Lone and Level Sands is a reference to Ozymandias, the poem. Because I know pronunciation is not my strong suit for a lot of things here, I've always wondered so when I had an English teacher, they called it Ozymandias, which is something that I had, that was what I called it for the longest time. And then I think I heard a recording of it at some point. Oh yeah, it was Civilization that had it. And I'm pretty sure it was Leonard Nimoy reading it, actually, because if that was Civilization 4. But in any case, he said it in such an unusual way. And then, you know, this is eventually where you go and you look it up and you'll find a specific reference. Although I seem to recall that this might even be referenced in Watchmen, where the character who also takes that name also, like, they point out how irritating it is to be asked that question when, you know, they're obviously capable and otherwise, you know, there could be better things that they could be asked. Yeah, we're definitely going to be testing the edges with the summons. I do have some options here, but I finished the manuscript. Okay, so there's not much we can do if I want to resummon. I either need to have trouble at the Gaiety, or we need to wait. Now, I'm not too worried about that because in 40 seconds, the mirror will be repaired and we can have the two summons talk with each other. The stage awaits hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. What's less certain, though, is the fate of the restlessness. I do have a season of ambition, so I will actually have something for the summoning. This one could potentially turn into a dread, depending on whether or not we have an opportunity to show our stuff. Mind you, the season of despair is also ticking down, so I don't need to worry as much about my overall mood. The wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It's over for now. Okay, well, we were talking about that fascination, so we are going to go to the Worm Museum this time. Okay, we wound up with I dreamt last night of the Worm Museum. The hours have set wards about it and warnings before it, but they have left it open to mortal adepts who can prove themselves by reaching it. Perhaps they hope to inspire revulsion against the things that bred in the corpse of the sun. Those things are here still, always dying, never dead. They came from nowhere, and they came from nowhere, the warnings say, and if they complete their work, the Mansus will be nowhere one day. Damon suggests that the hours have constrained their rivalry to avoid a war within the House of the Sun. He identifies the fear of the crime of the sky as the reason that hours do not satisfy other passions. He speculates on the horrifying possibility of hours turned Alucite. What then would they devour? So we wind up with the fascination. That's actually kind of convenient because we can cancel out the dread there. And we also have our first, when we set aside the secret history, is kind of our first high-powered lore. This one for Grail. So Anthic elaboration. The flower maker cannot touch you. He cannot find you. He always has what you desire. Even an elaboration of the properties of his works can draw the attention of ours. Alright, so as always we want to decide what we're doing with the study verb. There is a side of me that says it might be a good idea to... excuse me. There's a side of me that says that it might be a good idea to study health for the vitality. But again, that comes at the cost of being able to do research. So I'm pretty reluctant to do that in most, if not all, cases. Let's take the fascination and the dread. We see some suspicions coming up, so it's not something that I'm immediately worried about, but I should still kind of take seriously. And then for studying, yeah, let's keep working. How the end will begin. I mean, I think most of this stuff is pretty dangerous to be reading, but I'm gonna leave how the end will begin and the second glory to last. On the matter and deeds of serpents. This is probably the prophecies of the Naga, remember, rendered into English and illustrated by William Midnight in Paris in the 1880s, but it shows a number of divergences from that text. It's certainly quite recent by the standards of VAC texts. Lock the study door, the work begins. This place merits closer investigation, the Temple of Seven Coils. So, certainly one we want to bring Nock followers with. Alright, so let's keep going. The river of the Sage Mech in the Book of the Centipede runs through the sands out of myth and into legend. This is the place that Centipede was born, they say. The sands which Mech wrote hide perilous curiosities. Wondering what the tick... Oh, right. I always get a little nervous whenever I hear sort of something turning over. But in this case, it was just... it was something normal. The mirror is repaired. It shines again as it did once before. Now, normally I would want to be repairing the Watchman's mirror, but in this case, we're really at the point where we need to preserve the summons. So what I'm going to do here, the percussivant goes in the subject. There's a specific ordering that I do for these. Essentially, for the one that I either am going to want to perform an action within 60 seconds, or the one that I know I'm not going to be resummoning is the one that goes in the base when I have two summons talk with each other. So what this allows me to do is, I said that the percussivant is nice because it has a side effect of producing an influence. I don't think it will make that influence in the time that I need, so that's, that's unfortunate, but, it is what it is. But essentially, when I'm ready to do the summoning, I can just sort of drag this thing out and get on with the ritual. Whereas if I sort of buried it underneath with the Callagine, well, the Callagine is most likely going to be the sort of thing that goes and deals with evidence. So that's kind of the reason I do the ordering. Every once in a while I try to rush or I'm not thinking clearly and I do the wrong order, but that's generally how I approach these. Now, I was originally going to use this restlessness in a summoning, but we do have another one coming up. So in this case, we'll take the opportunity. Tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention. If I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. Tonight they'll notice that. We already still have the chance of generating heart influence, so we're not really losing anything doing that. And we wound up with the light, the dark. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. So I am going to need to wait a couple seconds to get the replacement restlessness. I could also just employ the fleeting remedy. Yeah, you know what? No, I do want to get rid of the restlessness, so... Sorry, I should have read the text. So let's go for our sunset right. Now the reason I'm doing this is so if the summon doesn't turn out, I still have sort of the base percussivant to work with. And we need to add knock here, so Menascate Invocation. The percussivant, merciless and merry, heart will bring it, edge will constrain it. Now, it's unlikely that we're going to need to use the Callagine in time, but I still have it as an option. And yeah, I don't see a scenario in which we get Vitality in time. What I might do is just leave the dream slot open. I prepared the text for study. Alright, let's start reading. The serpent folk, called the Great Hooded Princes, came to know the order called the House of Leith, and warred across the miles with them. They made an alliance with the Mother of Ants, whose children they had been. Okay, so we've got the Star-Shattered Fane. So I'd say I was going to do at least 3. There's not a huge problem doing the 4th one. I do kind of say I like to have one of each, but when it comes, like when there's something useful, such as when you have more expeditions to do. So you know, there's clearly some value in being able to do 4 expeditions in the Lone and Level Sands in a row. What could I be if I could be not this? There's clearly more of a benefit to being able to do 4 of those in a row than there is sort of breaking that up into chunks. But again, it sort of depends on, partly it just depends on mood, but also if I thought that I was at a point where I was feeling a little constrained as far as wealth, because I'm pretty sure these are going to require for funds to get past everything, and so that's also going to involve a little juggling as far as my followers are concerned. But again, we work with what we've got. Nothing, my word. Cease like sand in the glass. Not everything from the manses can speak, but everything can understand mortal speech, even once it has passed the white door. So I really don't think there's a situation where I get vitality in time. I am going to wait till the end of the percussivant summoning, because there is that chance of the Course of the Heart, but... Alright, and it's resisting, so that's why we didn't sacrifice it. The medicine is dark and bitter as tar. It would be easy to suspect I'm being poisoned. So in this case, we're going to do a reason. Pronounce the words of dismissal, seal the circle tight, erase every trace. Now, I believe there is going to be a heart influence that's left behind, but again, we wouldn't get that in time, so I'm not worrying about it. And then once this is done, we'll send this to talk with the Callagine again, we'll dance at the Gaiety, and then we'll return. We'll return to the summoning chamber and try again. The text describes how the Great Hooded Princes escaped, or will escape, from the Fifth History, where they had died, or were doomed to die. They engaged in a secret conquest in the land of the Great River, called India in some histories, and have ensured that all other conquests of that land are false conquests. So here we've got the formula of Phidian. Serpents are visitors which may not be denied. So obviously this one had a dread. I had like a little bit of a guess that that might be the case. I tend to make an exception for knock texts anyway, just because knock is very helpful, and it's also it's the one that you can't get. Like, you've got your items, but you can't get that from summons, for instance. The other thing too is that I'm not gonna, like, I have to read a book. I'm pretty sure most of them are gonna have side effects, but because the knock is probably one of the more, you know, dread-like, I sort of feel like anyway. It definitely feels appropriate. But yeah, it's just one of these things where it's like, if I'm gonna sort of weight the likelihood, how the end will begin if you don't think that there's going to be some kind of a negative effect from it, you're probably a very optimistic person. And you know, a strong winter text, again, chances are that's something that might be generating a bit more dread. Book of Dissolution, you know, maybe fascination, maybe dread, maybe nothing. But you make your best guesses based on the ordering of things. But again, I mostly just want as much knock power as I can get, to be honest. Alright, let's take our Deep Mandiac. The Book of Dissolution. Alexander Probst, following the foundational work of Hosti Moor, recovered a copy of this work from a mountain temple in Persia. Other copies surface now and then, usually seared on rock. Alright, Misana. A quietly prosperous village rests in the crook of the river, a surprising splash of green against the dusty land behind. The longevity of the villagers surpasses the natural. What are they hiding? And we will take one more Vagabond's map. Again, this same argument that I made before. It's just easier to do 4 expeditions in a row. Alright, so I think we'll finish off dismissing the summon. It's gone. We are safe. Yeah, so there's the trembling air. So not something that would have healed us, but we have it for a few minutes at least. And let's head back to the Gaiety before we get in trouble. The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. So we're sort of reset everything again. What I'll probably do is I'll use the dread here as a influence for the to try and resummon the percussagant. This does have the nasty side effect of holding back my progress at the peacock's door. I would kind of prefer. I mean, I do have one option here, which is the Wildering Mirror. But the hope, of course, would be that I can get another Vagabond's map before we start going on expeditions. And at this current rate, I could actually take my two sort of near dead Callagine and Percussagant and send them out. Now, the good news, if you can consider it good news, is that I have an investigation against me. I've got evidence coming up, and so in this particular case, I'm probably what I'm going to do is keep the Callagine around. At the very least, I want to have the expiring Callagine around to deal with the evidence. So that kind of gives me a reason to hold back on the two. That gives me a reason to sort of hold back on the, on the expeditions, and of course that gives me one more chance to go through the Peacock Door and potentially getting another location. But failing that, I mean, 4 locations is definitely not. That's not bad. We'll certainly have plenty of texts to work with, and I may want to take a few breaks in between. But that's the overall plan. As always, thank you very much for watching. We should have one more episode this week for Friday, so I'll see you then. Take care until then.